A nurse in Queens who makes $75,000 a year pays more than $12,000 a year in taxes. Does that really make sense? So people talk about making the tax system more progressive. How about we start by having the nurse in Queens not pay taxes?
Welcome to the Black American channel of the free and the brave. Let's eliminate taxes. Do I have your attention? That's right. Let's eliminate taxes. Not for everyone, but for the bottom half. Sound good? I may run on that particular policy right there, and I may just win. Write that down real quick for when I run for office. But no, seriously, I got a clip here. Jeff Bezos, none other than Jeff Bezos, the triple-digit billionaire, entrepreneur, owner of Amazon. In case, for whatever reason, you did not know that, the one that the left hates just because he figured out a way to make billions of dollars, right? There should be no billionaires, according to the Democrats. There should be no one with extreme wealth, even if you figured out a way to make it. According to them, it's not even possible to be a billionaire. Very interesting. But we have a clip here where Jeff is actually campaigning for, I don't want to say campaigning because he's not running for anything, but he is suggesting that the bottom half don't pay taxes. It's funny when someone you dislike actually has policies that align with things you would. Is he still such an evil oligarch who's running the country from behind the scenes, pulling the strings on all the puppets? Or he's just a normal guy who just happened to figure out to make $1 billion, right? Let's get into this video. Got a couple clips here of it. Before we do, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to get up to 9,000 subscribers. I appreciate every single one of you. And of course, leave your comments down in the comment section so we can have a conversation. Now let's hear Mr. Bezos speak on eliminating taxes.
I started thinking about this and doing some research. A nurse in Queens who makes $75,000 a year pays more than $12,000 a year in taxes. Does that really make sense? So people talk about making the tax system more progressive. How about we start by having the nurse in Queens not pay taxes? Why is somebody at all? Why is a nurse in Queens who makes $75,000 a year paying more than $1,000 a month in taxes? That's $1,000 a month that could help with rent or groceries or anything. And so, and by the way, do you know what that all adds up to? The bottom half of income earners in this country pay only 3% of the taxes. It's only 3%.
Whoa, he said a mouthful right here. So a nurse in New York City making $75,000, paying over $12,000 in taxes. So her take home is what, 63K in New York City? How are you living? How are you sheltering yourself? How are you eating? How are you getting around town on those dangerous subway cars? Now, for Jeff to say that she shouldn't be paying taxes, it's eye-opening. Maybe we should go down that path and see what we can actually do. How many lives can we actually improve? How much stress can we remove from American citizens and still keep the lights on? Now, he also said 3%. I didn't look it up. So we're going to trust Jeff Bezos here. He said 3% is only paid by the lower class. So that means 50% plus. Then you got to also factor in the middle class, pay roughly 80-90% of taxes. And we want to tax them more. And they are trying to put money in your pocket. Isn't it crazy? The left wants to eat this man, eat the rich. Cannibalistic. You can't live a society where you punish people for making more money. Maybe their taxes should be a little more so they can help the people of society and keep things going and keeping the national morale up in certain aspects. I think he's open for a conversation, but he's also open to help the everyday person. How do you not appreciate that and commend that? Let's continue.
You can find 3%. So we don't have, it's a small amount of money for the government, you know that. And really, and the more I thought about it, to me, it's kind of absurd that we're doing this. You know, we shouldn't be asking this nurse in Queens to send money to Washington. They should be sending her an apology.
He's absolutely correct. Let's rewind to the 20s, the 30s, whenever income tax, federal income tax was implemented. Democrats are the ones who implemented the first income tax. Now, it was only supposed to be for the extremely wealthy. And that's how all taxes began. Let them sell you on, oh, it's only going to be for a certain amount of people who make a certain amount of money. But it trickles down. It trickles down. With corruption and misuse, they're going to always want more of our money. Always, 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 always. So that nurse in New York was never supposed to be paying income taxes. Ever. How do we go back? Because we've set up a system, but that system is only attributing 3% to federal income tax revenue from the lower class. And like Jeff said, we can find that money somewhere else. With all the fraud and misuse and scandals and things of that nature being found out throughout our cities, with all the fraud through immigrants, legal or illegal, with all the fraud, the misuse from our politicians and the certain absurd initiatives and funds that they're supplying finances for, we can find that 3% to supplement for the lower class and let them live more of a healthy, non-stressful life.
It really makes no sense.
Okay, but then on the other end, the question is, should you be paying higher taxes to pay for the 3% component part of this that you think is going to need to be paid for, if not more than that, given the debts we have?
It's certainly a perfectly valid policy debate to say, do we want an even more progressive tax system? So, you know, the kind of the line that gets quoted all the time is, the wealthy should pay their fair share. Right. And we can argue about what the fair share is. That's a policy debate. That's okay. But the vilification is the thing that's just the distraction. And by the way, if you really are being honest about it, we don't have a revenue problem in this country. We already have the most progressive tax system in the world. The top 1% of taxpayers pay 40% of all the tax revenue. The bottom half pay only 3%. We have already, and I think it should be zero. I don't think it should be 3%. I think it should be zero. So we'd be making it more progressive that way. We actually have a spending problem, and that's a skills issue.
He's absolutely correct. We have a spending problem. We pull in trillions of dollars in income tax, federal income tax, a year. I think it's somewhere around, I don't even know. It's some trillions. I'm gonna look it up. Trillions. And we're always asking for more. They're always asking us for more. When are we going to get fed up? Because we started a revolution over less. 1% taxes on tea. We went absolutely berserk. They tax us and tax us and tax us. We aren't the same Americans anymore. Very passive. Very much so pushovers. We could literally vote for something, and then our representatives that we voted into office will completely go against what the people voted for. And we don't do anything about it. I don't get it. I don't understand. Are we living so much of a luxurious life now to where we can just, you know, say, oh, that's messed up. Maybe next time they'll listen to our votes. Or when are we going to start holding these people accountable? Because we could be in such a better situation as far as our citizens, the money that we make, the money we keep, because taxes are killing us. Let's get into this next clip with Mr. Bezos and let him continue. Remove and
Elizabeth Warren has made this point repeatedly. I think she's made it in reference to you and others. Are able to pay a lower tax rate, even though you're paying an enormous sum in taxes, a lower tax rate than maybe I am.
These people sometimes say that I don't pay taxes. It's not true. I pay billions of dollars in taxes. And it's a perfect, again, if people want me to pay more billions,
right,
then let's have that debate. But don't pretend, that's going to solve the problem.
You know what's very interesting about how he speaks about himself paying taxes? I feel like he has no qualms with paying taxes, even though he's paying hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes. I feel like he has no problem with that. He wants the country to move progressively, not the democratic progressive, but progressively in a way to better help the citizens. So I do get that vibe, that feel from him, that he has no problem. He even said, let's bring it to the table. We can discuss it. But he also says we have a spending problem, and that's the main issue.
You could double the taxes I pay, and it's not going to help that teacher in Queens. I promise you. So you can't connect those two things, not logically. There are more examples. Why is rent expensive? Why is rent so expensive? I recently saw somebody blamed it on Airbnb. Okay, Airbnb is not the cause of expensive rent. In fact, it's been almost, let me finish here 1 second. It's already been outlawed in New York City, and rents are still very high. So we know Airbnb isn't causing high rents. What's really causing high rent is government intervention.
Government intervention, that's huge. That's huge. Because when they tax us to death, we have less money to spend on our needs. Just as common sense. I don't even know how they're getting away with it today. We're taxed maybe 30, 40, 50% on what we actually make versus what we bring home with. I don't just mean income tax, because we got the federal income tax, of course. Most states have state income tax, right? And then you also have, the sales tax. You have different taxes, sugar tax, gasoline taxes. You have so many things that you don't even see. You don't even know about. And it just pulls and pulls and pulls away from your actual net income. Because even myself, I looked at my job and I'm like, oh, wow, I make this much money. But the way you're taxed, it's like very disheartening, discouraging, kind of frustrating, actually, to see how much is actually taken from my income. How do you guys feel about that? Like, when you see those taxes and you see how much is taken from you in your pay stubs, like, how do you feel about that? And then you just to know you got to go pay taxes on every single thing, so many permits and things that we have to have just to live life, just having a home. You're never going to stop paying taxes. Even when you pay off your home, you're going to have to pay property taxes until you die. How is that even legal? To where you buy your home, but you really never really own it because you have to pay taxes on it forever. Like, even my vehicle, I can pay my vehicle off. I got to keep the insurance and keep it registered, but that's minimal. I don't have to continue to pay property taxes or some type of vehicle taxes that they could say like you have to pay for the rest of your life. Absolutely insane how they're doing houses. Shout out to Florida, who is floating around the idea of removing property taxes, and I heard my home state of Texas is even floating around with it as well. But I think Florida is a little bit more progressed. Let's continue with Mr. Bezos here.
This age-old technique of picking a villain and pointing fingers, but the problem is that doesn't solve anything. And so, like, if you want to help the group of people who are struggling, you have to figure out real root causes and solutions, and that takes skill. It's like the way if we have a problem at Amazon, the way we would fix it is we would go in and we'd do the 5 whys and we'd try to get to a root cause. We'd try to find a root fix. And then when we fix it at the root, you're fixing it forever. It's a real solution. And what we don't do, because it doesn't work, is just point fingers and blame people. It might feel good for 10 seconds, but doesn't accomplish anything.
There you go. Get down to the root of things. 5 whys. Ask and figure out what's going on. What is the root cause of our tax issue here in the United States of America? We're just so bogged down. We have to get down to the root, because you can do certain things, make certain initiatives, but if you don't get down to the root, things will continue to become corrupt, and misuse and fraud will continue to run rampant. Now, I love the idea of not taxing the lower class. I am not in the lower class, so I am speaking for something that won't even affect me, but it will affect the youth. It will affect possibly my children coming up, and it will be a very useful initiative, and because it will put more money into the pockets of the people who may have a harder time making it out here in this economy, who may be living paycheck to paycheck. And why not give our fellow citizens a hand? That's what we're here for. That's what we all should be promoting. What do you think about this particular recommendation from Jeff Bezos that we should not collect income tax from the bottom half? We're taxed enough. I think this would be a great idea. A great idea. Now, this is just coming from Jeff Bezos, so it would take a lot to be put into action. But let me know how you think about this. Leave your comments down in the comment section so we can have a conversation. This is the Black American channel of the free and the brave.